Welcome to Chatting GPT, the podcast where I get to speak to the interesting humans who are implementing AI. I am your host, Mary Rose Lyons, founder of the AI Institute, and today I have on the head of course development at the AI Institute, Emma Marlowe. Emma has an amazing background. She is a long-time marketer, brand builder. She's worked with agencies, she's worked with SMEs, she's worked with everything else in between. Emma and I have been working together since February of this year. And today, Emma's coming on the podcast to share some really interesting insights on Copilot. Emma, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Mary Rose. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and the conversations always end up in a very, very interesting place. So it's a pleasure to be here. I think what you were summarising by giving that breadth of my experience is the fact that I'm quite old now, but that's fine. I'm down with it. And having been around digital since the late 90s, it's fascinating to continue to watch how we engage with technology evolve. And that's why I'm here and involved with our AI Institute.
It's so exciting, isn't it? So if anyone heard a previous episode, we had Bo Warren on, who's one of our Copilot trainers, and we were having a big talk. We were kind of like slagging off a little bit of what Copilot was. But Emma is on because Copilot has really changed in 2025. And we just like to bring some of these amazing things that are dropping to your attention. So if you have a Copilot license and you feel like you're not really getting the full value out of it, have a listen to some of these things that Emma has to share. So Emma, first up, what made you change your mind on Copilot and when did that happen?
It's a really good question, Mary Rose, because I've always been leaned forward with Copilot, primarily because I've always been a Microsoft girl through and through. And that is because the functionality at the end of the day gets things done. Microsoft's always been an incredible partner for that. When Copilot first dropped, it was really, really obvious that its capabilities were extremely limited. So Copilot had everything to lose, essentially. And it did start to do that, first of all. Chat is so much more user-friendly. It's so much more intuitive when it comes to its responses. Absolutely, ChatGPT, and thanks for the correction. And that's a point we'll come on to in a moment with Copilot, if that's okay, is the multiple entry points, one of which is Copilot Chat. But when it comes to the initial kind of versions of Copilot, very, very clunky. It wasn't really until the vast kind of conversation sphere started moving away from talking about not understanding Gen AI to talking about safety.
Yes.
And talking about privacy and data security within the enterprise space, that Copilot really began to come into its own, because the opportunity that any Copilot user has to not just link to their own workspace files, be they SharePoint or OneDrive, within the Microsoft universe, but also the opportunity that they have for Copilot to understand their workspace. That's much more than linking to files.
So give someone listening an example of that.
So, you can use Copilot Chat, which is the standard web-based function, as a search function that can search right across your workspace, but it can go much deeper than any specific Microsoft search has been able to go before. It doesn't just search your files. It doesn't just search anything else that's in your workspace. It can search right across everything that you can see and pull out information and correlate that information. So all of a sudden, you've got a search function that can see into your workspace that's also able to perform, and I use the word intelligent very lightly here, but able to inform intelligent tasks. So is able to not just find things, but do work tasks with them. And Copilot is able to do that in a way that only Gemini is able to if you're working on a Google workspace, for example. But as we know, the majority of the world does exist on the Microsoft ecosystem. So immediately that gives Copilot a big leg up. And that's really what started catching my attention, is the efficiency of Copilot to connect with your work persona.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like if you're using something like ChatGPT, you're constantly having to give it context, upload files, of ones that you've redacted, obviously.
That's the point.
Redact. You know,
It's the uploading files. You don't want to have to
yeah.
just point your LLM towards specific files. You want it to be able to see and select the ones that are specific for you. And when it comes to privacy and security, you've got it spot on. Redact, redact, redact. You don't need to with Microsoft. Yes, there are still hacks into Microsoft systems. Yes, they still go down. Every technology in the world that's smart is open to hacking. Microsoft had just been doing this for a long time. So rightly or wrongly, as an end consumer, I place more trust in them than I would do with pretty much anyone else in the technology ecosystem. So Copilot Chat is now running ChatGPT 5.0.
Yeah.
So what's driving, and obviously Microsoft is one of the biggest investors in OpenAI, and it will be interesting to see what comes from that partnership in the future. But right now in the present, ChatGPT 5 is already turned on as default for Copilot Chat users.
In the top right-hand corner anymore, no?
Not anymore, no. As of the last week, it now seems to be running as the default. But Microsoft's functionality really is coming along in that way. All of a sudden, there seem to be a wealth of new updates that are hitting Copilot, which are making it so much more friendly and also giving it some really unique features that the other LLMs don't have, in addition to the security element.
So tell us about some of these unique features that we love.
So one of the most interesting things that I've noticed about Copilot is the ability, because it has different entry points. So we've got Copilot Chat. Copilot Chat is very much like a ChatGPT. You prompt into a box. Okay, you can use it on the web, you can use it as an app. You've then got Copilot M365. So that sits within your Word documents, your Excel documents, sits within Teams, and the functionality there is growing all the time. Until really, really recently, these were relatively separate systems. There wasn't a way for them to engage. But very recently, Microsoft has deployed a feature called Ask Agent, which sits within M365. So when you click on the Copilot link within any Microsoft app, you will get a drop-down box. The drop-down box will include an option for app skills. Bear with me through this. When you go to app skills, you will then click a little plus button and you will see an option that says Ask Agent. If you hit that option and then you type the name of any of the agents that you might have created in Copilot Chat, it will bring that agent from Copilot Chat into your document in 365. Yes. And that's so exciting. And I will talk a bit more about agents in a moment.
An example of that, like say for somebody working away on a kind of a, massive document that needs to be turned into, say, a slide deck, and they're trying to analyze what's in the data, the document.
Okay, so great use case example. So you've got a huge chunky document. You are using M365 to analyze within that document. But what happens when you want to compare that document to something else that you've seen? And look to see what the commonalities are between the two and what the differences are, the contrasts. Well, the Copilot that's sitting within your M365 app can't do that because it can only focus on what's within the app.
Yeah.
If you bring an agent in and you ask the agent to compare and contrast, that agent can see right across your workspace. So all of a sudden, you have got a workflow that is micro within the document, but then you can broaden it out to the macro. You can broaden it out to your entire workspace with agents that you've built in Copilot Chat. And, not jumping on too far, but the really exciting thing about Copilot is Copilot Studio, which is where you can develop your own stuff. And if you link M365, the document you're working in, with Copilot Studio, all of a sudden you have everything at your fingertips because Copilot Studio can connect your agent with the web beyond the Microsoft universe.
So what is so magic about what's in the studio? Like how most people probably haven't even had a look in the studio. Yeah. So you have to be on a paid version to access
absolutely.
it. Right?
So, and to be really, really clear, you have to be on the paid version of Copilot. It's a great idea to test Copilot out while you're using your Microsoft tools, but to really get the most out of it, you do need the paid version. It's not that much of an uplift from what you're already paying from a license at the moment. It's pretty similar to all the other LLM subscriptions that are out there. There are a number of different parts to Copilot, and you get more bang for your buck, shall we say, with Copilot than with any of the other LLMs that I can see right now. Not only because it connects within your workspace, not only because you can bring the world into your documents in a way that you can't with the other LLMs, but also because Studio is bolted on to Copilot, and Studio is almost the sandbox area for what's coming down to Copilot Chat. So all of the things that we are now starting to see in Copilot Chat, workflows beyond agents, so the ability to connect different documents together and have an agent run a task across them, the ability to build a SharePoint page and put it on a SharePoint site with one prompt and one click. They're now sitting within Copilot Chat, whereas they originated within Copilot Studio. So Copilot Studio is the development area, it's the sandbox for Copilot itself, and Microsoft's giving us a peek under the lid, and that's absolutely brilliant. We've got the opportunity to be no-code developers with Studio, and Studio is doing essentially what no-code tools like Make have had the ability to do for quite some time. But Studio means that we can do it with prompts. So jump in, please do.
No, because I was going to say that, with Studio, you can connect Microsoft apps together as well as other apps, right?
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
within just agents on Microsoft, it's only connecting your different like Excel to Word, whatever. So Studio is like a built-in make.com or N8N within your Copilot where all your data is secure.
Yeah, I couldn't actually say it any better than that. It is. That's essentially what it is. So within Chat, you can build agents and workflows that will connect within the Microsoft universe, but Studio offers you connectors that go outside of that. So yeah, it really is completely changing the game, and Microsoft has brought so much more power within its ecosystem for people who don't code and don't understand more specialist tools, like Power Automate, for example. So we can now do an awful lot within Studio that we would have had to go to a specialist for before. And it's really, really exciting to see and play around with. And anyone who does have a paid Copilot license is going to see a little tab that says Studio. Download the app, play around with the web interface, and see where it takes you. See the workflows that you can create. We've got a number of Copilot trainers now, and it's really fascinating to see how much of its technical capability Microsoft is handing over to us, the uninitiated.
That's so true, actually, and that's how when I set up the AI Institute initially, my whole vibe was about that people could learn with their tribe. So it was like AI for marketers, AI for sales. Now we've evolved that because now we actually offer courses like, say, core skills, which is like these are the essential skills that every knowledge worker needs to have. We train this out on Copilot. It could be trained, it's agnostic to the LLM. So it's basically you could be on Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, or Gemini, and you'll be fine. But what's kind of evolved now is that it's the wonderful course instructors and trainers that are now working with the AI Institute. They are the ones who are geeking out and going deep on it. So you're like your own tribe of people who work as end users and really think through the problems and try and sort out, what's the most effective use of this new feature. So instead of coming to the likes of Microsoft who'll come through and say, these are all our features and they're all great, we're much more discerning than that. We'll only show you the ones that really will add value to an actual workflow. And then, Emma, do you want to talk through the process of how we actually put together the enterprise programs which are solving specific needs that individuals have?
Yeah, of course. And it's worth noting that more and more we are seeing those enterprise programs running on Copilot.
Yes.
And that's a great challenge for me and for us here at AI Institute, because it gives us so much more to play with, so much more to teach because of the functionality of it. So in terms of how we work with organisations to understand their needs, because this is very consultative, everything is bespoke, we have conversations, and I know they're led by you, Mary Rose, with management and with those stakeholders in putting the project together. But then very, very quickly, we flip over to participants. And whatever our cohorts' needs are, we aim to build a course around them. We find out those needs by running surveys. So business readiness surveys, essentially, to find out their existing state, where they are right now. And then we work with management to understand the future state, where they need them to be, in order to maximise the additional value that Gen AI has the opportunity to bring. Once we have the responses from those feedback surveys, we create course outlines specifically based on answering the problems that our cohorts are looking to solve. So every single course that's delivered is bespoke. And that's really what gets me excited. Apart from the technology, we really are able to do more with less than, in a way that we never were before. In an augmented, positive way, I should say, in that everything we teach is bottom up. It's really, really about ensuring, first of all, that employees within an organisation are skilled and are skilled enough to be able to accept the change that's going to come from top down. Yes, of course, there are going to be build and services solutions that are going to involve AI. If we prepared the workforce for that, that change is going to run really, really smoothly. One of the reasons why those we see the headlines of all the pilots, failing, and that the investment is not being realised in output and throughput. Organisations aren't taking people on the change journey, and ultimately they're the most important part of change. So the reason we design those courses bespokely, and the reason we really, really drill into the needs of the cohort, is so that the cohort's needs are met through the course, and they come out not just feeling as if they know more, but feeling motivated to learn more. Because whatever we do at AI Institute, it's the start of the journey. And it's one that people need to take forward themselves, within teams and across their organisations.
We're talking Copilot. Tell me about the most exciting thing, in my opinion, the most exciting thing to happen to Copilot in 2026. What's it going to be?
Okay. I think you're setting me up for a really nice one here, Mary Rose. So I talked a little bit earlier about how Copilot was not necessarily the most creative or the most capable partner outside of kind of core functionality until ChatGPT 5 dropped into it. So I believe it's on from a relatively reliable source that in Q1 2026, Claude is going to run inside.
Yes. So Claude is coming, and that was dropped. Claude is coming, and we were excited, and then we heard, oh no, Claude isn't going to be so good because it's on AWS. And then just there in November, it was announced that Claude will be coming on Azure, which means that your data won't be leaving the tenant, and you'll be as safe to use Claude through Copilot as you currently are to use Copilot. And I love the fact that Microsoft are acknowledging that they aren't the best writing tool in town, and they're bringing in the big guns.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really important. It is one of the reasons why I am a bit of a Microsoft fangirl, is because they do recognise their limitations and don't try to do everything themselves. So what I'm fascinated about in 2026 is going to be what's following that. So we have chat running securely within Copilot. We're going to have Claude running securely within Copilot. We've got Studio that's now sitting on the back of Copilot Chat for us to explore with. So I suppose I'd love to just
if they're going to try and take on, they're probably looking at Gemini. And the winner of Gemini in November, one of them has been Nano Banana. I wonder if they might, oh my goodness, imagine if they brought Midjourney into Copilot.
I don't know. I mean, I've always seen Microsoft as the real functional partner, and Google's the kind of
not visual.
Yeah, Google is very much the more creative younger sibling who likes to throw a lot of mud up against the wall and see what sticks. So it will. My hope for Microsoft for 2026. Can I give you my New Year's?
Go on.
It's not a resolution; it's a hope. But for Copilot for 2026,
I have a dream, says Emma.
Yeah, I do have a dream. I do have a Copilot dream for 2026, and my Copilot dream is that they're going to do something positive with PowerPoint and Copilot inside PowerPoint. Now, we know that Google has just dropped something really, really cool that turns copy
Notebook
into slide
LM.
decks. Yep, inside Notebook LM for the first time. It seems to be working really well. I have tried
I
and
add?
failed to use.
Can I add? We also know, not a lot of people are using this, but we also know that Claude will allow you to make the most beautiful, your on brand PowerPoint templates just by setting up a skill. So you can do it in Claude, you can do it in Gemini, or you can do it in Google Land. So yeah, why can't we do it in Copilot?
I see much more with Claude coming into onto Azure and also Claude coming into Copilot
Yes.
is that Claude's skills
Yes.
somehow will be brought into the Microsoft
Oh,
universe, which is what I'm desperately hoping for
that'd
because
be a dream.
much as I love sitting and tapping away and writing my brand story PowerPoints, it would be really, really nice if I could find a more efficient way of making them look beautiful than there is out there at the moment.
That is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Emma, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and sharing with everyone listening some of the exciting things about Copilot. So if you're listening and you're thinking, Copilot is nothing more than a glorified file manager, well, think again. You should definitely get in, have a little look around. If you don't find what you're wanting to find by having a look around, we have a Copilot masterclass coming up in January that you might be interested to join. If you want to go a little deeper and you actually want to finally in 2026 change the way you work, bring an AI in to support you in your work, we have an amazing core course which you can take through Copilot. You can take it through Claude or through chat. You might be lucky enough to have Emma or myself leading the course, or you might be lucky enough to have one of our amazing Copilot instructors. So with that, Emma Marlowe, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much, Mary Rose. Pleasure.
And we will have you on again. We'll have you on for some more updates on LLMs coming soon. So, for you all listening, thank you so much. I hope you've got some really great insights from this. And if you like the sound of this, why don't you actually subscribe? Because we drop excellent episodes like this every 2 weeks where we share the latest from people who are actually implementing AI in the field. So, for me, Mary Rose Lyons from the AI Institute and Emma Marlowe from the AI Institute, thanks very much.